Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? I don't know if any of you guys have played that game, if you want to call it a game. But when I was a small child, this idea of bullying and taking somebody else's hand and hitting them in the face with it and saying, "Why are you hitting yourself?" was a kind of cruel taunt joke for bullies. And that was done. I just remember seeing that a lot when I was a kid. I don't know if you guys have that experience, but that's what I'm going to talk about this morning. This is Avi Penhollow. You're watching the Proximity Portal on my daily commute to work. But this morning, I wanted to address this idea of, why are you hitting yourself? Another way to put this is it's called gaslighting. It's when you blame somebody else for what you're actually doing or inflicting upon them, projecting, if you will. And so we've got all kinds of iterations of that. The most recent one in the headlines, although this can apply beyond what I'm talking about now, is Laura Loomer, the far-right big mouth that just recently made fun of Trump's new detention camp for immigrants in Florida called Alcatraz. And, just the latest. I've talked about this before on this channel a lot, and I need people to understand that it's just the latest tactic. So I almost feel bad about addressing the most recent current headline, because that plays right into how Trump succeeds in moving the conversation away from things that he wants to move the attention away from. Just create a new crazy headline, flood the zone, Steve Bannon style. Now, what does this have to do with alligator Alcatraz? Because I think that the whole thing is framed in such a way. Yes, they're really doing it, but it's also a tactic to move the conversation along and to keep you so flooded with all the things that outrageous things that it just keeps you distracted on focusing on one thing. So this morning, I just want to focus on one aspect of this. And you could take this story and extract it to any of the other stories that are related to it. And that is what is really going on behind this kind of game. So I'm talking about Laura Loomer yesterday, a big MAGA mouthpiece, so to speak. So she'll say the most outrageous stuff, and so that others don't have to, although it doesn't really matter these days. This rhetoric about 65 million meals for alligators. That number, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, let me just back up. Yesterday, Laura Loomer made a comment about Alligator Alcatraz, the new detention facility in Florida. And she said that, it'll be it's a great place for 65 million meals for alligators. She thinks this is a wonderful thing, this detention camp. Whatever you feel about immigration enforcement and that sort of thing, that comment about 65 million needs to be looked at. And because it was an intentionally chosen number, it was not some random number. You don't just say 65 million. So where does it come from? By now, some of you probably know that it comes from the pretty much exact amount of Latino people in the United States. Not illegals. That number is close to 11 million. So, that's the number floating around. So 65 million and 11 are quite different numbers. And it was specifically chosen by Laura Loomer. And so don't make any mistake about that. What I am curious about, though, in all of this, because this is genocidal talk. 65 million people and laughing about it. Like, this would be a great place for, 65 million people to be exterminated in cruel fashion. Now, she didn't say Latinos, Mexicans, or other or any ethnic group, to be fair. And I point this out in an article I just wrote that is in the link to the description of this video. So please check it out for a more deeper dive. I'm a lot better at explaining it that way than I am talking. But this is a very classic gaslighting tactic. And I just want to tell you why as we take a ride together. So, why are you hitting yourself? I didn't say Mexicans. I didn't say. I was talking about illegals. 65 million people, she mentions. 65 million meals for alligators. We're not getting away from that number. And we're not getting away from the actual context which brought her to this. And so this is a very frustrating for many of us who know what she's talking about, but we always fall into the trap of taking the bait and going on an attack of Laura Loomer, for example, saying, she's calling for the genocide above. She is, but the problem is what they have in their pocket is, well, I never said that. I never said that, wink, wink. I never said that, these are just, liberal propaganda, conspiracy, they're twisting my words, all that kind of thing. My point is, if we know that that's coming, when a piece of propaganda or some sort of cruel tweet like Laura Loomer's comes out there, my suggestion for a strategy is that we build into our response the fact that it is going to be gaslit. In other words, take a step out of the back and forth banter, take out of people's minds. Address that this person said this, and they're going to try, the number was very specific. We know it was related to a specific group of people, but they're going to try and say that they weren't really talking about that. That needs to be in our initial response, not in a follow-up after we've accused them of making genocidal comments. Does that make sense? That's the strategy. I get more detailed in it in the article, so please check that out. I have a article on Substack on the proximity portal. I think that you would everyone would benefit from understanding, first of all, the context that leads up to this, but also a strategic way for us to respond. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, is we often shoot ourselves in the foot and I'm not talking about argument. They have no argument. The people that are talking about birthright citizenship and all this hateful rhetoric out there, they don't have a real argument. So I'm not chastising those of us who understand that. What I'm saying is we need to do better at the messaging, because it matters. And that's the problem. You can't just be right about something. You have to, the messaging matters. So take a ride with me and we'll continue to chat about it. I'm interested, though, to see what you all think in the comments of this video. So please leave. I'll check it in a little bit later. I'm on my way somewhere right now, but I'll check it in a little bit. I want to know, do you think this is a good idea to just memes that are correct in their messaging? So I'm thinking of one in particular, and I mentioned this in the article. Occupy Democrats are very good at taking something that just happened and quickly pushing out messaging that push back against something like Laura Loomer's genocidal tweet. And I think that that's good, and I'm not being critical of doing that. I just wonder, though, because those same memes are going to be picked up by the gaslighters themselves, and they're going to say, see, I never said that I was attacking the Latino community or the Mexican community or the black community. They do this on all of the different issues. I wasn't saying that at all. And so these, crazy liberals, it's just a strategic thought that I had when this came out, it's not the first time I've had this thought, that we need to build into our arguments or into our messaging what we anticipate. Because otherwise it extends the life of them being able to, those who are pushing out evil propaganda like this, it gives them more time for that lie to fester. And if there is anybody on the fence who are more nominal, like cursory lookers, looking into what's going on, they could be convinced, oh, these people are just screaming and yelling, they're just being big babies. And that's why I said all of this reminds me of the whole cruel thing when kids will, like take the arm of a kid and hit the kid in the face with their own arm, saying, "Why are you hitting yourself?" And that's what these people sound like. They're adult bullies. They have no argument, and so they resort to those tactics. But guess what? Those tactics work in our society. I'm sorry to say it, but those tactics work in our society. And we could get into all kinds of reasons for why that is. Why is it that our society is so susceptible? And I'm not saying we are more than other countries, but I kind of suspect that we are. And it largely has to do with our kind of consumer media and social media environments. We love a good drama. We love spectacle. And now we're getting flooded with a lot of really funny, by the way, AI video content and stuff like that. We like spectacle. And to say that this just belongs to MAGA and the far right is actually untrue. I like spectacle. I think it's hilarious. Some of the, things that I do are very sarcastic. But there's a spiritual darkness behind a lot of what we're seeing right now. I mean, to laugh about 65 million human beings dying, being mutilated as a joke. Now they do this because it's effective. It gets people upset. It grabs the headlines, and then it lets them push their messaging. Well, we didn't really mean that, but let us tell you, these illegal criminals are a real problem in our society. And that messaging actually sticks for a lot of people. So I'm just suggesting that our strategy, we need to tweak our strategy to make sure that we preemptively put into our arguments, hey, I know what these guys are going to say, that she didn't say that, but here's all of the reasons why we know contextually what she was hinting at. And then it puts the burden of proof on them to, well, why did you pick that specific number of 65 million? Build that into your first one. Now, I know that it's hard to do this when you're just publishing a meme, because what's a meme or a short social media post? It's just meant to get your argument out there, put it in front of people's eyes, as many as you can. I get that. But it's without this extra step of preemptively cutting off the whole gaslighting response that you're going to get, it cuts us short a little bit. And I'm talking to myself, about what I need to do in this. If you want to know more about the whole Laura Loomer tweet and the larger frame of the argument, that's in much more detail, the link for it is in the description of this video, to the full Substack article that I just put out this morning. And please tell people about it, push it out, just like this channel. If you haven't liked and subscribed, of course, it's really helpful. So do that. We're actually pretty close to getting our first 1,000 subscribers, and we haven't even been that active lately. So that's good news. But keep the good word going. About what we're trying to do here is to inform. This is not necessarily about politics, but for those who say that we shouldn't talk about politics, that's a political position. Howard Zinn famously once said, "You can't be neutral on a moving train." And this train, and if you want to call it the Trump train or whatever you want to call it, it's moving, and it's moving fast. The good news is that it only can move fast. Let me just make sure you understand this part. The Trump train only works when it's moving fast. Because once it slows down, again, they have no argument for all this hate, and so when it's moving slow, we can address those points and show how ridiculous they are. But when it's moving fast and they're just throwing things at you left and right, the moving train becomes much more difficult to navigate. So this isn't about whether or not you're a conservative or you're a liberal. I thank God that there are many conservatives who see the same things. But, and those on the left, there are some who see it, some who are just propagandists themselves. My point is this, is that we don't have to be in agreement on certain economic and political ideas. We'll never be in full agreement on all those things. Hell, my ideas will never see the light of day I don't believe they would ever see the light of day in our society. So I'm not sitting there, I'm not fixated on necessarily seeing my political ideas ever being fully expressed in this society. And I've kind of known that my whole life. But it's not about us agreeing. But one thing I think that is harmful is when conservatives are doing everything they can to be conservatives, but also be morally responsible by calling out this complete BS and hateful rhetoric from the moving train. We don't. I've noticed that people will latch on to those voices, and that's actually harmful to them. They'll latch onto those voices, they'll put them on MSNBC, on all of the programs that are supposedly anti-Trump, but I believe that channels like MSNBC and all I think that they love Trump. He's wonderful for their business. But my point is, they'll grab these lone voices or these minority voices. I think there are more than many people realize, and they'll put them on their shows and they'll promote them and they'll say, see. And I'm kind of doing the same thing when I say we need to take these real conservatives and give them our support, in the sense that I would never support a lot of policies that we disagree on, but the fact is that there are things that we can disagree about that are very they're very different from the really bad actors, is what I'm trying to say. There are decent people out there who, for whatever reason, for example, and I know this is gonna cause some problems with people, but there are many pro-life people out there that are not bigots. They have a rationale behind why they feel the way they feel about that issue. That being said, that issue is being used by the really, really bad actors, to keep them hooked into all the other issues. This is all intersected, right? It's all connected. And they'll keep a lot of human beings under their ideological umbrella because that particular issue is something very important to them, for maybe because of their spiritual beliefs about that. And no matter what you feel about that, it's really, if there's only going to be two sides, this is my point, and you have to check every single box in order to be included on that side, you're really setting yourself up for failure. One thing that the MAGA movement is very good at, they have their check boxes too, but their check boxes are a little more fluid in the sense that, like, well, you don't agree with that, but you agree with that. All right, come on over here. You're with us. You're with us. You're with us. That kind of thing. So we have to be cognizant of that. Now, I didn't really dig into any of the deeper aspects of the article that I wrote. Again, you can find it, the link in the description. But I think it would be good. I'd love to hear what you think about it. I'm much better at, writing things down than talking. So if you can sustain your attention for about 10-20 minutes, go ahead and read that article. In other news, the proximity portal we're moving forward with a couple things. We have a new Facebook group that I started because some of you don't know this, but basically I've had my account attacked about 2 times in the last 3 years, and they were successful in completely pulling down the Proximity Portal Facebook page. So I've now created a Proximity Portal Facebook group that will be private, but if you want to come in and join us and be part of our conversation there, do so. I'll put the description, I'll put the link in the description as well. But you can find us, go on Facebook, Proximity Portal, it should pop up now. I look forward to being on a Malachi's Expanded Consciousness program tonight at 6:30 Pacific time. You'll see me there with Malachi. It's really good to be going back online with him. It's been a little while since I've been on, and we'll be talking about spirituality, the religion, and the future in this context that we're all talking about. In the meantime, if you see somebody doing this, why are you hitting yourself? Grab their hand and slap them.